Baby, sit down. No, seriously, sit all the way down, because I need every inch of your attention for the next several minutes. Because what I am about to lay on this table tonight is the kind of story that flips an entire chapter of hip-hop upside down before you can even finish your first sip of tea. This is not a rumor with training wheels. This is not a maybe. This is not a whisper. This is a full-blown seismic moment. And by the time we are done, you're going to see Blueface, Jaidyn Alexis, Chrisean Rock, and this brand new baby in a way you have never seen them before. Word on the street is that Blueface, the same Blueface the whole internet has been dragging, the same rapper who has spent 2 straight years running through headlines like a hurricane with a microphone, has just been handed a moment so big, so heavy, so absolutely cinematic, that even his loudest enemies had to freeze mid-scroll and admit that this one hit different. Because right after a weekend that sounded more like a war movie than a baby shower, right after Jaidyn Alexis waddled through a room full of chaos, right after Chrisean Rock did what only Chrisean could do, and right after somebody, somewhere, let bullets fly across a Los Angeles night that should have been holy, Jaidyn Alexis finally delivered him his newest son. And baby, the child's name is Jonathan Jr., and the internet has not stopped shaking since that little boy took his first breath. Now hold on, because I need you to sit with me for a full second before I go any further. This is not a rumor. This is not a reach. This is not one of those tabloid drops where somebody's cousin's manicurist heard something in a smoke shop in Van Nuys. This is Blueface himself, cradling that baby, smiling like a man who forgot the entire world was on fire around him, posting a photo so soft, so tender, so completely out of character that even longtime skeptics did a double take. Because the Blueface we know is the man who dances in parking lots, who bounces from live to live, who trends every Tuesday for a reason nobody wanted. But the man that showed up the day Jonathan Jr. arrived was a different creature entirely. And honey, if you didn't feel that shift, then you weren't paying attention. Allegedly, sources close to that hospital room are saying his eyes glossed over the second the nurse placed that infant in his arms. Allegedly, everyone in that room went silent. Allegedly, for the first time in a long time, he acted like a father before he acted like a headline. And that alone should tell you what kind of season this family is walking into. A season nobody in that hospital was ready for. A season the algorithm is about to feast on. A season that is going to write itself into the history books of hip-hop drama, whether we want it to or not. But here is the part where the smile freezes on your face. Because that same beautiful arrival, that same soft photograph, that same little Jonathan Jr. wrapped up in his blanket, is landing in the middle of a storm that has not stopped raining since the moment Jaidyn Alexis got involved with the rapper again. And the closer you look at this weekend, the more you realize this baby was born into a house that is not built to hold him. So sit down, pour that drink up, cancel your plans, silence your phone, because tonight we are peeling back layers on this Jonathan Jr. situation that nobody, and I mean nobody, has connected the way I am about to connect them. Hello, and welcome back to this channel. If you are new here, drop a like, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and buckle up. This one is heavy. Everything discussed here is alleged. Everything is for entertainment and educational purposes, and full fair use notice is live in the description below. Now let's get into it. Let me set the scene properly, because half the internet is still trying to figure out what actually happened last week. Jaidyn Alexis had already been pregnant for what felt like an eternity. I am telling you, this pregnancy stretched on so long that half of Twitter started joking that this baby had signed a lease on that womb. Every week, another rumor. Every week, another timeline. Every week, another photo of Jaidyn Alexis holding her stomach like she was carrying a small nation on her hips. And through every single one of those weeks, Blueface, the same man who was supposed to be settling down, was ping-ponging between his baby mother and Chrisean Rock like the entire concept of loyalty was a suggestion. And that is where the plot begins to bend, because you cannot understand Jonathan Jr.'s arrival without understanding the war his birth is walking into. Because right before Jaidyn Alexis went into labor, Blueface pulled up to her baby shower. Read that again. He pulled up to Jaidyn Alexis's baby shower with Chrisean Rock in tow, openly, publicly, like the concept of secondhand embarrassment does not exist in his neighborhood. Now imagine being Jaidyn Alexis, sitting in a decorated hall, surrounded by pink and blue balloons, staring at your child's father as he strolls in with the same Chrisean who has been making your life a public soap opera for years. Some folks close to the event say Jaidyn Alexis kept her composure. Some folks are saying she almost broke. Some folks are saying that a certain someone even flashed something sharp in the middle of that celebration to warn Chrisean to stay in her lane. And baby, when you have to bring hardware to a shower for an unborn child, the world has already lost its mind, packed a bag, and moved out. That is not a baby shower. That is a hostage situation with balloons. Now buckle up, because the story does not slow down here, it accelerates. Now hours later. Hours, not days, not weeks, hours. After Blueface waltzed through that shower on the arm of the wrong woman, gunshots ripped through a Los Angeles night on Cahuenga. Pow, 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 pow. Rapid, sharp, unmistakable. Not a firework. Not a car backfiring. Not a bass drop on somebody's speaker. Actual, live, unmistakable rounds echoing across a corner of Los Angeles that should have been quiet. And within minutes, the entire internet was refreshing the same 3 video clips trying to figure out what on earth had just gone down. Was it a robbery? Was it a jump? Was it retaliation? Was it a setup? Was it Blueface's fault? Was it Chrisean's? Was it a stranger with a grudge? Nobody had a clean answer. Everybody had a theory. And every theory somehow put the rapper right at the center of it, because that is where he is always standing when the smoke clears. Because listen, and this is where I need you to lean in a little closer, I have watched that footage more times than I care to admit, and something about it does not add up the way it is being sold. Both Blueface and Chrisean supposedly got knocked to the concrete on the same night, on the same block, in the same window of time, wearing the same shell-shocked expressions. And every time I rewind that clip, my gut whispers the same word, staged. Because in a world where the rapper has an open probation situation hanging over his head like an anvil, and in a world where Chrisean has been begging the courts for leniency, a self-defense narrative is worth more than gold. A self-defense narrative gives you a bulletproof vest for the courtroom. A self-defense narrative lets you swing, let bullets fly, and still walk out looking like a victim. So no, I do not buy the choreography we were sold. Not one frame of it. Not one angle of it. Not 1 second of it. And I am not the only one whispering it. Half of Los Angeles is whispering it. Half of the streamer community is whispering it. Half of the people who were there that night, allegedly, are whispering it too. Because the man everyone keeps zooming in on, the guy with the long dreads, the one always 3 feet away from Blueface, but never in the actual danger, is starting to look less like a bodyguard and more like a stage manager. Word on the street is that this same friend has been dropping locations, feeding tips, telling the wrong people the right addresses, and pocketing streaming money the entire time. Allegedly. Because when your inner circle is doubling as a leak, you are not a target, you are a business model. And the rapper, in his own reckless way, is the CEO of that business. So while Jaidyn Alexis is going into labor to bring Jonathan Jr. into this world, the father of that child is standing in a scene that looks less like a real ambush and more like a scripted trailer for the next season of chaos. Now let me get to the part that broke a lot of people over the weekend, the part that had grown women in tears on their commute, the part that had folks pulling their cars over just to rewind the clip a second and a third time. Because on top of the shooting, on top of the shower, on top of the streams, somebody is saying, and I want to be very careful here, that Blueface allegedly, put a foot to a female's head during that street chaos. Word on the street is that a woman ended up on the wrong side of a hard kick during the fog of that Cahuenga night. Word on the street is that police are still trying to piece together the exact frame-by-frame of who did what. Word on the street is that if that allegation is proven, he could be walking a very short road back to a very familiar cell. And baby, if you thought this was already spinning out, that piece alone should tell you exactly how narrow the ledge is that this man is dancing on. And through all of that, through the smoke and the noise and the arrests and the streams and the shower and the entourage, Jaidyn Alexis was, quite literally, giving birth. Take that in. Let it settle. Because it is one thing to bring a child into this world when the house is calm. It is another thing entirely to bring a child into this world with your baby daddy trending for kicking somebody in the head. Jonathan Jr. did not arrive into peace. Jonathan Jr. arrived into a hurricane. And the smile Blueface is wearing in that hospital photo, tender as it looks, cannot hide the storm that is waiting for that boy on the other side of the front door. Because now, Chrisean has completely moved from side quest to main quest. Chrisean is not just his on again, off again, out again, in again anymore. Chrisean Rock is publicly claiming she is proud to be compared to Whitney Houston. Yes, that Whitney Houston. And she is embracing the label like it is a crown. Now honey, if you know your history, and I mean if you actually know it, you know that Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown were not just a love story, they were a warning. They were smoke, they were sirens, they were headlines and hospitals and heartbreak. And when Chrisean stands in front of a camera and says, essentially, put me in that box, wrap me in that legacy, hand me that halo, she is telling you exactly who she thinks she is. And she is telling him exactly who she plans to be for him. And you cannot say she did not warn us. But it gets deeper, because Blueface's own mother has now walked into the ring. Blueface's mother, The same woman who once could not stand Chrisean is suddenly Team Chrisean Rock. The same mother who used to side-eye her in every interview, who publicly clashed with her, who once treated her like an outsider, is now cheering for Chrisean over Jaidyn Alexis. And that pivot, that overnight flip, tells you everything you need to know about how quickly loyalty rotates in that family. Yesterday, Jaidyn Alexis was the safe choice. Today, Chrisean is the golden child. Tomorrow, it could be someone none of us have even heard of. And the only person paying the real price for that revolving door is a baby who cannot yet lift his own head. Now I want to sit with something Blueface mother has to answer for. And I say this respectfully, but I say it plainly. If your son is out here catching bullets on Cahuenga, if your son is being investigated for allegedly kicking a woman, if your son is one bad night away from a real cell in a real prison, do you still cheer for the woman who lit that match? Because Chrisean Rock is not a bystander in this circus. Chrisean is on the poster. She is the co-star. She is the reason a lot of these fireworks even go off in the first place. And Blueface mother waving a Chrisean flag while her son is drifting closer to a lockup by the hour is a plot twist I will need 3 business days to recover from. Meanwhile, on the other side of all this noise, Jaidyn Alexis is home with a newborn. Jaidyn Alexis is doing the math. Jaidyn Alexis is looking down at Jonathan Jr., swaddled up, tiny, defenseless, and she is realizing something that every single one of us watching realized the moment that baby was born. She is realizing that her leverage is over. She is realizing that the thing keeping the peace was her pregnancy. She is realizing that as long as she had that belly, Chrisean had to stay on the porch. But the belly is gone now. The belly is a boy now. And that porch door is wide open. And Chrisean is already halfway inside. In fact, if you scroll her page right now, if you rewind her last stream, if you pay attention to the little details she keeps dropping between the laughs, Chrisean has been previewing this move for weeks. So let me speak directly to Jaidyn Alexis for a second, woman to woman, sister to sister, from one honest observer to a woman standing at a crossroads with a newborn in her arms. Run. Do not walk. Do not hesitate. Do not negotiate. Do not fall for the soft-eyed Blueface holding that baby. Because as sweet as that photo is, that same man is going to drop that baby right back into a house where Chrisean is going to walk in unannounced. That same Chrisean who crashed the baby shower is going to crash the nursery. That same Chrisean who danced in the driveway is going to be sitting on the couch by Christmas. And the moment Jaidyn Alexis blinks, the moment Jaidyn Alexis takes a night at her mother's, the moment Jaidyn Alexis lets her guard down for a single second, Chrisean will be in that kitchen. Believe that. Because Chrisean has done this before. She will do it again. She does not lose sleep over other women's homes. And Blueface? He is not going to stop her. He is not going to lock a door for you. He is not going to draw a line. He is not going to protect a routine. He is not going to defend a bedtime. He is going to keep juggling, keep streaming, keep smiling for whoever pays the most attention that week. Because remember what happened, remember the number that leaked, remember the receipts. Word on the street is that Chrisean and the rapper pulled in something in the ballpark of $160,000 in a single night off streams. One night, 160 stacks. That is not entertainment. That is a payroll. That is a paycheck. That is a paycheck that turns your baby's father into an employee of the chaos. And as long as that number keeps climbing, Jaidyn Alexis will keep sliding down the priority list. That is not opinion. That is arithmetic. That is the math nobody wants to say out loud because it makes too much sense. And do not think for 1 second that Chrisean does not know exactly what she is doing. Because she is not stupid, no matter what the internet says. She understands the game. She understands the algorithm. She understands that as long as she keeps giving people something to watch, the money keeps landing in her bank, the followers keep multiplying, and the fame keeps outpacing the shame. And here is where it gets sad, because Chrisean was, at one point, allegedly homeless. She, allegedly, had nowhere to go before Blueface world swallowed her up. She, allegedly, was estranged from her family. She had a pain-shaped hole where a support system should have been, and Blueface walked in with a spotlight and offered to fill it. And that, right there, is how you find girls willing to be humiliated for a check. Not because they enjoy it, because they think the check is the only thing that will keep the streets from swallowing them again. And men like Blueface, allegedly, know exactly what they are shopping for. So do not look at Chrisean and only see the chaos. Do not laugh her off. Do not write her off. Look at Chrisean and see the blueprint. Look at Chrisean and see the woman who was handpicked because she had no one to call when the cameras turn off. Look at Chrisean and see somebody who did not even invite her own family to her baby shower. Because that detail alone should tell you the depth of the disconnection. And when a person is disconnected like that, the wrong man can convince her that his circus is a family, and she will call it home. Now let me pivot back to Blueface, Because I want to be fair. And when I say fair, I mean fair. Because I refuse to be the kind of commentator who only sees the shadow and never the flicker of light. Because the rapper, for all his mess, does seem to actually love his children. That soft look in that Jonathan Jr. photo was not staged. Whatever his failures, whatever his patterns, whatever his history, when he holds those babies, something in him goes quiet. And that is worth acknowledging. But loving your children and protecting your children are two completely different verbs on two completely different pages of two completely different books. You can love a child from across a courtroom. You can love a child from a jail cell. You can love a child from the front page of a police report. Love is not enough. Presence is enough. Peace is enough. Discipline is enough. And right now, this man has love without any of the other three. Which brings us to the real question, the one that has kept the comment sections lit up all week. What kind of life is Jonathan Jr. actually being born into? Because if you look at Blueface other children, if you look at what happened with Chrisean's son, if you look at the reports of streaming, drinking, partying, and neglect that have circled that toddler like flies, you already see the pattern. That baby is showing signs of struggles that could have been prevented. That baby, allegedly, was placed in situations no infant should ever be placed in. And when Chrisean is asked about any of it, she refuses to take 1 ounce of accountability. She is out here in interviews going, I never drank while pregnant, I never partied, I never did anything wrong, when the entire internet has receipts telling a different story. Now if Chrisean cannot even own her past, what makes anyone think she is going to own her present? And what does that mean for a household that is about to welcome her back through the front door while Jonathan Jr. is still learning how to blink? Meanwhile, look at the older Blueface children. Look at Javon Jonathan Porter, sometimes called Junior, the son from Jaidyn Alexis's earlier chapter with the rapper. Look at how many times that little boy has been dragged into the middle of adult wars he did not ask to enter. Look at how Chrisean, allegedly, mistreated that same child during her time in that home. And then, get this, Blueface, in his infinite reasoning, still keeps floating Chrisean right back toward Junior's orbit. That is not father energy. That is not father math. That is not father instinct. That is chaos on autopilot, cruise control set, seatbelt off, and a toddler in the passenger seat. And Jonathan Jr. is about to inherit the same address, the same driveway, the same slippery front porch that his older siblings have been trying to survive. So when Blueface mother posts her latest Chrisean endorsement, when Chrisean does her next Whitney Houston cosplay on stream, when Blueface friend with the long dreads leaks the next location, when Jaidyn Alexis loses another hour of sleep wondering if Chrisean is going to pop up in her yard, remember one thing. Every single one of those decisions lands on a baby. Every single one of those choices has a name attached to it now, and that name is Jonathan Jr., and that is the tragedy of celebrity chaos. The adults get the headlines, the babies get the trauma. Now let me take you to something that has been bothering me all weekend, because if we are being honest, the timing of this Cahuenga shooting has staged written all over it in 3 different fonts. Follow me on this. Blueface has a probation situation he cannot afford to violate. Chrisean Rock has been trying to rebuild her public image after the toddler backlash. Both of them stand to lose everything if either one of them throws the wrong punch on camera. So what happens? Suddenly, magically, coincidentally, both of them get knocked to the ground on the same night, in the same window, in the same street, and both of them have a beautiful, ready-made self-defense claim to hand to any judge who asks. That is not a coincidence. That is a screenplay with a rehearsal schedule. Allegedly. Because look at the way Chrisean leaned into it afterward. Look at how quickly she started bragging. Look at how quickly the streams flooded with drama recap after drama recap. Look at how the entire ecosystem lit up with content the moment those shots rang out. If this was really trauma, there would be silence. If this was really an ambush, there would be caution. There would be lawyers. There would be shutdowns. Instead, we got a marketing rollout that would make a Fortune 500 company jealous. And I will say it plain, when the aftermath of a shooting sells better than the shooting itself, somebody in that room understood exactly what was going to happen before the first shell hit the pavement. And that friend, the one with the long hair, the one whose name keeps floating in and out of these stories, is the missing piece. Because if he is really the one dropping locations, if he is really the one making sure the right cameras are in the right places, if he is really the one leaking Blueface every move to whoever pays for the tip, then he is not a friend. He is a producer. And the rapper is walking around thinking he has an entourage when he actually has a film crew. That is the part the audience is missing. That is the part the algorithm is not telling you. That is the part one need you to sit with, because once you see the show for what it is, you cannot unsee it. So where does Jaidyn Alexis go from here? Because that is the question. That is the only question. That is the question every therapist, every Annie, every longtime listener of this channel is asking right now. Everything else is decoration. Jaidyn Alexis now has a fresh baby in one hand and a full-time crisis in the other. Jaidyn Alexis now has Blueface smiling at her 1 minute and vanishing to a Chrisean stream the next. Jaidyn Alexis now has the internet split between telling her to hold the family together and telling her to burn the whole address down. And Jaidyn Alexis is going to have to decide which voice she listens to before this baby learns to sit up. Because if she waits until Jonathan Jr. can walk, it will already be too late. Chrisean will already be inside. The rapper will already be halfway to the next headline. And Jaidyn Alexis will already be trapped inside the exact life she should be running from. And you know what makes me the saddest, honestly, when I sit with all of this at night, and I really let it marinate? It is the sheer waste of potential in this whole situation. It is that a version of this story could have ended beautifully. Because Blueface, when he is not trending for the wrong reasons, actually has moments of clarity that would surprise you. Jaidyn Alexis, when she is not being pulled into public spectacles for a paycheck, actually has a soft, capable, motherly side that shines through in her quieter posts. Jonathan Jr., when he is not being born into a firestorm, actually has a chance to be one of those baby photos people melt over for years. All the ingredients for a functional family were in that hospital room the day that little boy was placed in his father's arms. But those ingredients only work when the cook stays in the kitchen. And Blueface, allegedly, has not been home in a very, very long time. Let me take a small detour here, because babies are on my mind, and I have to speak on this. This weekend, on top of everything else, has reminded me of the children who are not being fought for. Because for every Jonathan Jr. who is getting a father on camera, there are thousands of babies in the foster system waiting for someone, anyone, to walk in the door. I said what I said. I remember what fostering looked like in my own family. I remember how many babies were in the system, back to back, brand new, tiny, breathing, blinking, needing. I remember parents who did not fight to get them back. I remember parents who left the hospital and never returned. So while the whole internet is watching this saga, I am also asking us to remember that behind every Jonathan Jr. spotlight, there is a nameless newborn sitting in a hospital bassinet somewhere waiting for anyone at all. If any of that touches you, look up your local children and family services. Take the class. Sit in the room. Ask the questions. You might just be the answer somebody's baby has been waiting for. Now let me swing back to the main stage, because the drama is not done unfolding. Honey, not by a long shot, not by a country mile, not by a Los Angeles freeway. Because everybody, and I mean everybody, is waiting to see what Chrisean does next. She is not going to let this baby be born quietly. She is not going to let Jaidyn Alexis have this moment without an interruption. She knows the algorithm. She knows that a well-timed post can hijack a news cycle. And I would not be surprised if by the time this video ends, Chrisean has already dropped something wild enough to reset the whole conversation. That is her signature. That is her method. That is her weapon. And Blueface, in the middle of it, is going to keep doing what he does. He is going to smile at Jonathan Jr. on Monday, kiss Chrisean on Tuesday, argue with Jaidyn Alexis on Wednesday, hop on a stream on Thursday, and by Friday the internet will already be wondering how one man can be in 4 crises at once. And when the weekend hits, he will do it all over again, louder, messier, and with an even bigger camera crew documenting the wreckage in ultra-high definition. But here is the part one want you to hold on to as we start closing this out. Because underneath the drama, underneath the streams, underneath the shootings and the showers and the shade, there is a real, breathing baby in the middle of this story. Jonathan Jr. is not a plot device. Jonathan Jr. is not a comment section. Jonathan Jr. is not content. Jonathan Jr. is a tiny person whose entire future is being negotiated in front of him by adults who cannot even agree on what day of the week it is. And every single one of those adults, Blueface, Jaidyn Alexis, Chrisean Rock, Blueface mother, the long-haired friend, the whole entourage, has a role to play in either protecting that boy or handing him over to the same cycle that broke his older siblings. There is no neutral seat in this room. Every silence is a choice. Every stream is a choice. Every headline is a choice. Every visit is a choice. Every phone call is a choice. Every drop-off, every pickup, every argument, every reconciliation, all of it is a choice. And Jonathan Jr. is going to grow up, and one day, when he is old enough to type his own name into a search bar, he is going to read every single one of them. Every single tweet, every single stream clip, every single blog post, every single Instagram live, every single receipt this internet has ever kept on his parents. So let me leave you with a set of questions I cannot stop chewing on. Was that Cahuenga shooting real, or was it choreography? Is the long-haired friend a bodyguard, or a broker? Is Blueface mother Team Chrisean because she genuinely believes in her, or because Chrisean is the loudest woman on payroll right now? Is Chrisean cosplaying Whitney Houston because she is delusional, or because she knows exactly what button that comparison presses on the internet? Is Jaidyn Alexis going to protect Jonathan Jr., or is Jaidyn Alexis going to let this family swallow him whole the way it has swallowed everybody else? And most importantly, when Jonathan Jr. is old enough to Google his own name, what version of this story will he read? Will he read the version where his father showed up? Or will he read the version where his father showed off? Because that, right there, is the difference between a legacy and a headline. And the rapper still has time to choose. Jaidyn Alexis still has time to move. Chrisean still has time to pump the brakes. Blueface mother still has time to pick a side that actually looks out for her grandbaby. Everybody in that circle still has one more chance to do right by Jonathan Jr. before the pattern locks itself in. But the clock is not friendly. The clock has never been friendly to babies born inside storms like this one. And the longer this dance drags on, the smaller that window closes. Now, baby, before I go, I need you to do me a couple of favors, because I built this whole channel on real ones like you, and I mean that. If you made it this far, drop a comment and tell me exactly what you think. Do you believe that Cahuenga Sh00ting was real? Or do you think somebody wrote it on a napkin the night before? Do you think Jaidyn Alexis is going to leave? Or do you think Jaidyn Alexis is going to stay and try to make it work for Jonathan Jr.? Do you think Chrisean is going to move into that house within the next 30 days? Or do you think the courts will get to her first? Do you think the long-dread friend is the leak everyone has been looking for? And do you think Blueface mother is going to regret picking Chrisean over Jaidyn Alexis the moment something bad happens? Drop your take. I read every single comment. I do not just read them, I use them. Because your comments shape the next video and your instincts are usually sharper than the entire mainstream press combined. And if you learned something, if you laughed, if you gasped, if you paused halfway through and told a friend to watch, do me the tiniest favor in the world. Tap that like button. Tap that subscribe. Turn those notifications on. Because I am covering this Blueface, Jaidyn Alexis, Chrisean Rock, Jonathan Jr. saga from every angle, and I am not going anywhere while there is a single thread of this story left to pull. This channel is built brick by the people who ride out on these long-form breakdowns, and the more of you show up in the comments, the deeper I can go. And trust me, we are going deeper. Because next up, I am opening the entire file on the rapper's finances, the streaming payouts, the tax angle nobody is talking about, the trust fund question that keeps floating around in comments, the child support paperwork Jaidyn Alexis may or may not be preparing, and what happens to Jonathan Jr. if any single piece of that empire collapses under its own weight. You do not want to miss that one. So share this video. Send it to the group chat right now, before you forget, before the next headline hits, before the next twist in this saga overwrites everything we just discussed. And listen, this is not one of those stories that fades in a week. This one has legs. This one has receipts. This one has a nursery attached to it, which means it is not going anywhere until that little boy is walking, talking, and asking his own questions. Screenshot the timestamps. Bookmark the moments. Save the receipts. Send it to the cousin who called it. Send it to the auntie who has been begging for a Blueface update since last Christmas. Send it to the co-worker who swore Chrisean would never make it back into that house. Send it to the friend who is always 6 weeks behind on the hip-hop news. Because the more of us are watching, the more the truth stays lit up. And if you have new information, if you know somebody who was at that baby shower, if you were on Cahuenga that night, if you have any receipts I need to see, my email is open, my inbox is open, my sources are shielded, and the truth is always welcome. This channel does not do lies. This channel does not do fake beef. This channel does not do rage bait. This channel does the tea, straight, no chaser, with all the layers pulled back so you can see exactly what is cooking underneath. Because Jonathan Jr. deserves a world that is watching, honestly watching, not just entertained watching. Jaidyn Alexis deserves a world that is watching, gently, protectively, with real concern instead of just curiosity. Even Chrisean, in all her mess, deserves a world that is watching, because sometimes the only thing that saves people from themselves is the audience refusing to look away. So we watch, we witness, we speak, we write it down, we remember. We refuse to let this become just another blur in the endless scroll. And when the next twist drops, we will be right back here, doing it all over again. Because that is what this community does. That is what this channel is built on. Brick by brick, comment by comment, receipt by receipt, we hold the mirror up to Hollywood, and we refuse to let anybody pretend they cannot see the reflection. And that is exactly why I am so grateful you rocked out with me all the way to the end tonight. So one more time, from the very bottom of my heart, from the very center of this community, congratulations to Jonathan Jr. Welcome to the world, little man. May somebody in that room stay strong enough to raise you right. May somebody in that room be brave enough to say the hard things when the cameras are off. May somebody in that room stand between you and the noise every time it comes knocking at your door. Congratulations to Jaidyn Alexis for surviving the pregnancy from another dimension. Take your rest, take your peace, take your baby, and take your time before you make one more decision that costs you another chapter of your life. And to Blueface, because I know you might come across this, pick a lane, pick a side, pick your son. Because if you keep picking the drama, one day Jonathan Jr. is going to be old enough to ask you why. And you are going to have to answer him with words, not with streams. Words. Face to face. Man to son. Choose today the man you want to be in that conversation, because that boy will remember every silence you leave him with. And to my community, my day ones, my day twos, my day threes, my day fours, my brand new subscribers who just walked in the door because the algorithm finally did its job, thank you. Thank you for making this the kind of space where we can talk about hard things without turning ugly. Thank you for showing up every single time the algorithm tries to bury us. Thank you for treating this like a family, because that is what it is. I love y'all. I mean it. And I will see you in the very next one. Peace, family. Peace.